Well, the new moon in the next few days is going to be a welcome relief for you, Taurus. It does occur in your 7th house of really important relationships, marriage, de facto, and soulmateship. So if there's been a bit of a stalemate in that area, and that's possible too, because right now you have the combined influence of Mercury and Saturn, Mercury moving very, very close, but then having done a retrogression, so a rethinking of your communication style with your partner, and then the new moon taking place in this area as well. Certainly an uplift and the opportunity for you to take a whole new angle on relationships that may have stalled. We do see that there's a lot more drive in terms of your personal relationships now, and that's also shown by this marriage planet Mars, one of your marriage planets, along with Pluto, being in the fifth house. That's also in a strong triangular aspect to Pluto right now. So this is a very energetic combination, one that gives you a lot of drive, a lot of energy, a lot of determination to really make what you do in the relationship count. So I think right now, gone are the days when you just rest on your laurels, and I think it's time for a shake-up. If your partner, for example, is doing things that are not at all in keeping with what you'd like, rather than shutting your mouth and keeping the peace, this does appear to me to be a time when you can successfully coax that person into making those changes. There's another aspect here that was an exact aspect between Uranus and Pluto on the 1st of November, and it shows the intensity of your emotional attachments at that time, and it's also challenging you on the deepest levels now. So sometimes this can be traumatic. It could also make you feel a little bit vulnerable and exposed. Perhaps you've been following the same old in the way you're dealing with the person that you've been relating to, and that's not working. Now, if your partner has some issues, they may perhaps have compulsive issues, neuroses, even some sort of psychological problems, now is the time to coax them into getting some help, because therapy will work for them right now, and that, of course, in the long run, is going to help the relationship overall. Now, I know I'm a little bit late, as usual, because I've been travelling. I'm here in Bali, but I do like to go back a few days just to give you a sense of what's happening here. The new moon is important. We do see you've had the conjunction of Sun and Mercury around the 2nd. That's 3 or 4 days ago, so you would have been affecting those communications strongly. Another one there on the 2nd at the same time, Mercury in sextile to Pluto. That gives for very intense communications in at least the first week of this month. Starting tomorrow, we have the conjunction of Sun to Saturn. Now, what that can do is actually stall things a little bit. You mustn't let bad moods get in the road of just really putting on the table what you feel has to be said and doing what has to be done at this time for the best results. You're very, very idealistic. We see that the aspect from Venus to Neptune is a good one this month. That's going to be exact on the 8th. Shows your sensitivity, your desire and taste in music, art. Also very fantasy-prone sort of period for you. And if your fantasies and your personal intimate desires haven't been met, then listen, dreaming about it is different to doing it. So there has to be a connect between what you're imagining and what's actually happening in the real world. And what so often happens with a lot of people is that, they live in the world of fantasy and dreams. There sometimes comes a point where you have to step out of that and, as I said earlier, put it on the line and demand what you want in that relationship. We see a very constructive aspect after the 9th, or leading up to the 9th and around that time between Mars and Saturn. This again is 5th and 7th house stuff, romance, love affairs, marriage. It seems you can't escape this theme this month. And so the favourable aspect between these two inimical planets usually makes for a constructive solution, but it doesn't happen all that easily. You have to work hard on it, even though those energies are working cohesively together. There is an opposition, depending on the date you're born in, excuse me, I'm just adjusting this camera a little bit so I can have a look at these aspects. There is an opposition from the Sun to your natal Sun, depending on the date you're born. That's not that easy for you. Leading up to the 10th, we see that there's some inattention there and some ego conflicts. Some of the authority figures in your life could be a little abrasive, and if there's any sort of weakness or health problems, you really need to pay attention to that. During this first couple of weeks of the month, the triangular position of Mercury to Neptune shows that you should trust your intuition, particularly if we're talking about these health aspects. And you've got some vision there now to do something a little bit different, not just in your relationship, but as far as your own self is concerned. There's a very, very big aspect relating to movement, change, travels up around the 13th, and you want to do things bigger and better than you usually do right now. That could take you out of your comfort zone, but you can enter into those actions with a lot of optimism and confidence right now, Taurus. You've got to have a willingness to speculate. I think that willingness is there, and taking a risk right now will more than likely pay off because those aspects are pretty favourable. The dynamic energies come back leading up to the 14th of November with the transiting Mars in trine to your sun sign. So that's all good for activating your physical energies, making you more dynamic and with a get up and go spirit. The right angle around the 15th of Venus to Uranus is a little bit intense, a little bit unconventional, and can indicate some unusual displays of affection or social activities. So keep yourself open to that, but it may not be all that easy for you, especially if you don't like stepping out of your comfort zone too much, and that is often the case with a lot of people born under the sign of the bull. Around the 24th, 25th, we see three important aspects there. Venus to Saturn. That shows a more loyal and dutiful sense to your relationships, and the possibility of maybe your partner travelling at that time or being out of the picture for a while. The square of Sun to Neptune, you need to be careful of too much alcohol, too much of a good time around that date. And the Venus trine Sun indicates that could be brought upon you by the fact that you're very popular at this time. So, you're accepted by your friends, you're probably a lot more attractive, and the tendency to extravagance and overdoing it in the party sense is quite likely also. The opposition of Mercury to the Sun, leading up to the 27th, shows you're probably a little self-absorbed. You could be a little ego-centered at that time, but maybe you need to be if you're to get through this month in one piece and feel as if you've achieved something, especially on those notes of relationship. You can, in the last few days of the month, have a bit more of a positive approach to the way things are going, and any sort of communication, study, teaching, if you're a teacher or a lecturer, are well favoured by that Mercury trine aspect to Jupiter. The last aspect here I'm going to talk about is the opposition of Venus, your ruling planet, to Jupiter, around the last couple of days of the month on the 28th as well. And once again, revisiting that party mode, which could end up injuring you in terms of your vitality, energy, and health in the long term. So do watch for that. Don't overindulge too much. Thanks for joining me. I'm here again each month, albeit a little bit late sometimes. Do take the time to visit me at astrology.com.au for a more detailed analysis of the month in focus, daily horoscopes, a lot of other free readings and free spiritual material for you to help you on your path through life. Take care now. See you again here next month. Bye-bye.